Hello, greetings. Welcome back to Blackbird News, where everything is connected. How you doing? We're live on Callin, Rockfin, and on YouTube. YouTube. Are you on the YouTube? I heard he does a podcast on the YouTube. Talking about some climate change. How you doing? Good to see y'all. Thanks for joining. Thanks for hanging out with me every single day here on these interwebs. All right. We got lots to talk about here, so we'll get right into it. Oregon State University researchers what are they saying? They're saying that they estimate that gray whales feeding off the Oregon coast consume up to 21 million microparticles per day. Little by little, we are all getting exposed to more and more microplastics. Yep. And I think everybody can agree that that's happening, right? Even the people that are... I mean, you hear this all the time. You hear it all the time. Well, pollution and climate change are not the same thing. Oh, of course, we're destroying the planet with our pollution and our plastics. But that certainly is not climate change. Okay. Sure. I mean, that's one way to think of it, I guess. But if we are certainly affecting the planet with our pollution and our microplastics and our endocrine disruptors. There's a big story lately about endocrine disruptors, which I didn't cover at all. But microplastics has something to do with that too. Hold on. Well, so did you all see the thing? I think it was in the RFK interview with Joe Rogan when he said, endocrine disruptors are they're altering. They've been found to alter the sex of I think frogs or certain animals. Anyways, the thing was that everybody drew from it. The whole Alex Jones. It's a kind of a joke, right? It's a meme. Alex Jones talking about they're turning the frogs gay. Have you all heard that one? Oh, cool. Well, I'm gonna go off on a tangent and find some more articles, but let's see. Maybe I can find this. I know I'm off on but we're talking about microplastics when we're talking about, we're tying this into pollution and what humans are doing. Hold on. Maybe I can find the clip real quick. Anyways, it was a big thing and of course, where are we here? Is that what he really said? I don't want to like Sorry, I saw this kind of out of the corner of my brain. But what I'm getting is a whole lot of like lefty, like, he said that this was, it's making kids transgender. I don't think that's what he said, actually. So there's a lot of misinformation about what he said. I don't want to repeat the misinformation. Hold on. Here we go. I think a lot of problems we see in kids, particularly boys, is probably underappreciated on how much of that is coming from chemical exposures, including a lot of sexual dysphoria we're seeing, declared the 2024 presidential candidate. I'm just repeating words, YouTube. I'm not actually, I'm just doing a news story, okay? Declared the 2024 presidential candidate. I mean, they're swimming through a soup of toxic chemicals today, and many of those are endocrine disruptors. That's atrazine throughout our water supply, he continued. Atrazine, by the way, if you are in a lab, put atrazine in a full tank of frogs, it will chemically castrate and forcefully feminize every frog in there, and 10% of the frogs. The male frogs will turn into fully viable females able to produce viable eggs. If it's doing that to frogs, it could. There's a lot of other evidence that it's doing that to human beings as well. Okay, I wish there was more context for this that I'm reading, but I think that's kind of what he was saying. But we know that endocrine disruptors are real. Let's see. Hold on. There's just a lot of garbage in here in this thread I'm looking at. Sorry, I know I'm I'm going off on a tangent here. Is that true about the atrazine? Okay, I can't. All right. This is a lot of nonsense in this thread. I'm trying to look up something and I can't actually find anything but like propagandist nonsense. Like, anyways, Judy Truitt says, seems like a taboo subject, but it makes logical sense to me. Yes. Well, okay, here's the thing. We talked about endocrine disruptors a long time ago. This is a real problem. And whether it feminizes men or not, endocrine disruptors have the ability over time to disrupt fertility in humans in general. That's true. That's fact. That's science, right? Endocrine disruptors, not good for people, not good for animals, right? So, and a few years ago there was a big kerfuffle, if you will. A lot of people were concerned about all the hormones they were putting in cows, right? You got your milk and your meat from cows that were filled with hormones, and what were these hormones doing to the people ingesting them? That's a real connection, right? That is that was an established connection that you could be, ingesting these hormones as a byproduct of what you're eating. So, what you're eating, what you're coming in contact with, what you're touching, what you're ingesting, what you're breathing in, right? All of these things have effects on your physiology, right? So, okay. For UKR, I think you're a kook. So I'm just letting you know, I think you're a kook. And so I see you. I see what you're doing. Right off the bat, I see what you're doing. So we don't need the propaganda there for UKR. Euchre. What does that mean? Yeah. Anyway, so this is not, there was a big deal about it. But let's go back to microplastics. I was just saying, people are willing to say, oh, we're, what we're doing to the planet and what we're, the food that we eat. These all have deleterious effects, right, on humans, or the future of humans, or how humans are, how we're might be changing ourselves in not the best ways. That's kind of an easy connection. You're about to be blocked for UKR, because you're just not really like. I see what you're, whatever. I mean, unless you want to stay and get kicked around in the chat, that's fine. It's up to you. But we don't need more disinformation, possibly. You blocked him yourself. There you go. Yeah. I'm sure this is Slava reincarnated. But anyways, so all the people, I'm just tying this in. Not okay. Yeah. Anyways, well, let's just do it. And yeah, sorry. For UKR, you are out of here. Yeah, I'm not in the mood either, Bella. I'm not in the mood. That's why he's already blocked. So for the people that are saying like, oh, we're polluting the earth and we're not, we're. Yeah, certainly. What in endocrine disruptors, and this is bad. And RFK said endocrine, the kids are swimming in a toxic soup. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's real. But somehow, we're doing all this stuff has negative consequences on on how human beings are going to go forward on the planet, and also has negative consequences on the biosphere. But somehow climate change is just a super big hoax. I don't know how you separate those two. I'm not really sure how you separate it. Or somehow, you're anti-human if you bring up the fact that humans are destroying the planet. Is that anti-human? It's a weird concept to me. I'm not anti-human. I'm hoping that humans, get their act together and act in a better way and treat the planet in a nicer way. That's not anti-human. I'm just, how about some responsibility? Anyways. Yeah, I feel better now that I blocked that guy or whoever that was. I don't even know why I pay attention to that stuff, but whatever. Oregon State University researchers estimate that gray whales feeding off the Oregon coast consume up to 21 million and then it's funny. And then Greg shows up in the chat and calling. I think Greg is just like, Greg is Slava, right? And he's just jumping around from channel to channel, or from platform to platform, doing his job, getting paid, making his salary, whatever he's getting paid, blah, blah, blah. Must be nice. All right, little by little, we are getting exposed to more and more microplastics. Let's look at this. But you guys are kind of obvious. Dear Slavas, you're obvious. But it's funny. It's funny. It's humorous. Anyways, gray whales are ingesting all these particles. Microplastic pollution includes microplastics and other human-sourced materials, including fibers from clothing. The finding, just published in the journal Frontiers on Marine Science, is important because these particles are increasing exponentially and predicted to continue doing so in the coming decades. According to researchers, microparticle pollution is a threat to the health of gray whales, in addition to obstacles related to increased boat traffic and loss of prey. We're going to talk about loss of prey too. These are quite scary numbers, said Lee Torres, an associate professor at Oregon State. and an author of the paper, I think they should raise concerns for people who care about the marine environment or about their own environment and exposure to microplastics. Well, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I said yes. It's inescapable at this point across all ecosystems, including right off our coast here in Oregon. Susan Brander, an associate professor of exotoxicologist and exotoxicologist, ecotoxicologist, not exotoxicologist, at Oregon State and co-author of the study, said the findings reinforce the need to curb the release of microparticles because of the adverse impacts they have on organisms and ecosystems. Yeah. So we know this. We've established this, that poisoning the planet, putting these toxic chemicals out there are not good for animals and or people, right? We know that this is a very simple concept. Anyway, and has been proven scientifically, right? This is not like a harebrained, like, I have a theory that these microplastics are bad for the animals to ingest them. No, it's not a theory. It's real. Anyways. Torres notes that microparticle consumption estimates are likely conservative because they only account for what the whales consume from zooplankton. They examined stool samples, found microparticles in all of them. These whales are already stressed out with boats driving around all the time and the risk of getting hit by one of those boats. And, some marine animals have taken to driving the boats away or trying to get rid of them. They might also have less prey around because of the changes in the environment, like less kelp. And now the quality of the prey might be poor because of these high microplastic loads. That all can lead to being poorly nourished and having poor health. That can lead to stunted growth, smaller body size, lower ability to have calves, and animals not using this habitat anymore. All of those are areas of significant concern. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Somebody explain how corporations earn money from fewer consumers. Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. That's a question I have too. But other reasons why fish and other animals might be struggling. Climate change. Sorry, you guys could not see the last article that I was reading. Climate change is not only driving up ocean temperatures, it is also stripping the seas of oxygen. Fish are already moving to new waters in search of oxygen, and scientists warn that future oxygen loss poses a grave threat to marine life. And the End of the World Party asks, isn't this how a mass extinction that wiped out 95% of life on Earth started? But remember, I read the article about all the birds that were dying on the Mexican coast, and they found that it wasn't because of avian flu; it was because of the low number of they didn't have any fish to eat. they were seagulls, and they require, a source, a food source. And the food source left the area because the waters were warmer. And now the fish have starved. I mean, the birds have starved. More from Doomer Girl News. A dangerous and prolonged heat wave blanketed large parts of the southern United States on Tuesday, buckling highways and forcing people into air-conditioned shelters as temperatures soared past 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Yow. Youch. This is from today. Excessive heat warnings were in place from Arizona in the southwest all the way to Alabama in the southeast, with South and Central Texas and lower Mississippi Valley worst hit. There may be more danger than a typical heat event due to the elevated longevity or record high nighttime lows and elevated heat index readings during the day, the NWS said, urging Americans in affected areas to drink plenty of fluids, stay indoors, and check on vulnerable relatives. Again, just because something isn't happening where you live, right? I don't know. It's been pretty cool here this winter. I don't believe in this climate change because California's been really cool. Yeah. Again, got to use the old brain cells and understand that there might be extreme weather events happening where you don't live. It's also very, very warm in Europe as well. Anyways, climate change is causing increasingly frequent and intense heat waves in major cities across the United States. That is true. That's factual. Most of Texas has already warmed by 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit by 2016 as compared with a century before because of accumulated historic greenhouse gas emissions. I mean, are we going to do anything different about this? Probably not. Strain on a few people have died apparently. Strain on the power grid. The strain is sure to put the power grid in Texas to the test as millions of people switch on their air conditioners to cope with demand peaking around late afternoon. Again, I would suggest, doing everything in your power to get yourself, used to higher temperatures, and do other things than turn on your AC. I mean, fans are fine. Fans are good. You can also put a wet towel on a fan, stuff like that. But I mean, when the power goes out, then that's when everybody who, can't function when it's above 85, that's when all those people run into serious problems. So your best bet for the future is to acclimate your body to higher temperatures. And then also discover new ways to keep cool that don't require AC. Or, wet, cool towels on the forehead. Wet, cool towels on top of your head. A wet towel, around your neck, etc., etc. Finding shade, etc., etc. So people of the South experiencing those issues. And more people, this is all over. Let's see. Beijing suffers its hottest June day ever. Let's see. Sorry. Beijing is suffering a heat wave as well. Meanwhile, 2 environmentalists were assassinated in Mexico. An earth uprising has been outlawed in France. This is where the world is heading. Only nonviolent revolution can turn it around. These are not my words, the words of Robin Boardman, but I tend to agree. Let's listen to this.
Climate news. Beijing is suffering its warmest June heat wave on record, with high temperatures in the Chinese capital Thursday climbing above 41 degrees Celsius or 106 degrees Fahrenheit. Its hottest June day since records began. In Mexico, a searing heat wave has driven record demand for electricity, with reports of blackouts in a dozen states this week. The extreme heat extends into the United States, where parts of Texas and other southern states face excessive heat warnings into next week. This comes as smoke from massive wildfires continues to trigger air pollution warnings in Canada and parts of the U.S., with unhealthy air quality forecast for Chicago and much of Wisconsin today. The Union of Concerned Scientists reports half the U.S. population has faced an extreme weather alert so far this year. Meanwhile, a new study published in the journal Nature Sustainability finds Earth's ecosystems are degrading from global heating even more rapidly than previously thought, with 1 in 5 ecosystems, including the Amazon rainforest, at risk of passing a crucial tipping point by the end of the century. In Mexico, human rights advocates are demanding justice for 2 environmentalists assassinated in separate attacks in the state of Mexico earlier this month. Alvaro Arvizu and Cuauhtemoc Marquez were forest and water defenders who fought against extractivism in the region. Marquez, who was also a beekeeper, was shot dead near his home on June 12th. A day later, Arvizu died after being brutally assaulted by a group of unknown assailants with what appeared to be an axe. Mexico continues to be one of the deadliest countries for environmentalists in the world. The government of France has ordered the shutdown of the direct action environmental group Earth Uprising, wielding powers it previously used to outlaw far-right movements. The order came after the French Interior Minister accused Earth Uprising of carrying out eco-terrorism at several recent high-profile protests. The group responded in a statement, quote, "Trying to silence Earth Uprising is a vain attempt to break the thermometer instead of worrying about the temperature," unquote.
Well, that is an interesting segment from Democracy Now! Again, right, a lot environmental activists tend to be in the South, global South. They tend to be murdered instead of arrested or ignored, arrested or ignored. Mostly arrested, but and they tend to be, murdered in the line of protecting, local habitat. But it's a dangerous thing, and environmentalists everywhere are under pressure, and as we've seen from Earth Uprising being banned in France. I don't know how that jibes with, climate change being a hoax, or all these people being paid by, don't get me wrong, there are elements, WEF elements, all up in a lot of climate change movements. It's true. But there are also a lot of on the ground level climate activists who are being shut down. And, when she said, they used laws that are typically used to ban right-wing extremists, so when you're on the left and you think it's cool to silence or shut down people you don't like on the right, understand that those laws, the laws that you are like, yay, they're going to finally shut these guys down, those laws will be used against you, right? Free speech. Free speech is for everyone on the right and on the left. And, you may not agree with somebody's take or views or, all that kind of good stuff, but shutting them down is not the way to do it. It probably will just make them stronger, by the way, or make them more, dig their heels into their views, right? If you want to maybe try and change somebody's mind, I think a better way to do that was with conversation, which can only happen if people have free speech, right? Right. Okay. Yeah, and there's been a lot of crackdown on all kinds of environmental activists everywhere. Anyways, Beijing is suffering a heat wave. Japan also. It's not too far from Beijing. Also suffering a heat wave. Another heat wave in Japan with June records broken. In the past 2 years, every single month has witnessed heat records broken in Japan. In some months, several hundreds. Every single month for 2 years straight. I wonder what's happening. I don't know. Sounds like we're going into an ice age, I think. Temperatures keep going up, and I'm pretty sure we're going into an ice age. So there you go. Let's see. Just trying to make it through a couple things here. More. There's heat in Morocco and in Europe as well. Record temperatures in Morocco. Temperatures rose to a brutal 48.5 C. Good God. In Sidi Slimane. I don't know if that's how you say it. 48.5. That's awful close to 50. By far the hottest June day in Moroccan history. They said by far. More records destroyed. 47 C. Terradant, 46.3. Rabat Saleh, 46.3. Kenitra, 45.4. Nusur, 45.2. Sitat. Yeah, that's hot. And let's see. And there's also still serious fires going on in Quebec, all over Canada. Locals in Quebec find themselves in a tight spot. While trying to protect their community. There are still 40 plus fires labeled as out of control in the province. Hotshot crews continue large-scale firing operations to create a buffer and a box around these fires. Locals have said Sacramento hotshots, Helena hotshots, and Yukon DIVs have crushed some massive burns. Shout out to all the hotshots and IMT team members up there. It's pretty wild footage. All right, how y'all doing? Everybody doing good? Just trying to get through all the stories I have for you. What's up, Rockfinners? How you doing? People hanging out on Rockfin. I appreciate you. Yeah. I saw that. Denver. That's very funny. Yeah, I think we're going to move to some political stuff here in a second. You all see that Joe Biden in his dementia has said, I sold a lot of state secrets. And then, yes, he said, all kidding, all jokes aside. I was just joking. Ha 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 ha. He's been saying a lot of weird stuff, though, right? Like somebody was asking him a question and he said, he's like, what? Do Democrats drink the blood of children? And she was like, I didn't even, what? He literally said that. I was like, what? The question actually wasn't about that. So that's weird. I mean, that's not what I think. That's just what he said. I mean, anyways, I don't know. I can't find anything here. But about, Biden saying that at a meeting of statesmen, like, why would you even say, why is that even a joke? Yeah, I sold a lot of state secrets and other things out of nowhere, right? Like, the context for that is what? It's looking pretty hot, though, for the Bidens. It's looking pretty hot. There's a lot more direct evidence that they've been up to, some criminal type things. I don't know how much more you need, honestly. Like, even just bold admissions on a stage, right? About how you pressured Ukraine with $1 billion, held it over their head. I mean, that's a crime in and of itself. You're admitting to a crime out of your own mouth, bragging about it on a stage. It's kind of strange. All right, let's do it. Let's jump over to Rockfin, guys. Before I do that, the very best ways to support the show, most direct, paypal.me/Kevin Sandblum, Venmo at Kevin Sandblum, Cash App, Red Llama Music, buymeacoffee.com/Blackburn News. And I appreciate everybody that supports and contributes to the show. You can also super chat or super ray or support me at Patreon. Patreoners, thank you. I did get a PayPal tip from Lou. Thanks, Lou. I know you're watching all the time. And I don't see you in the chats, but I know you're watching. All right. Yeah, let's move over to Rockfin for a few minutes. Got a few more minutes. And thanks everyone on YouTube. I'll see you on Rockfin.